You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our Weight Loss Wednesday show, what I want to talk about right now is how blood sugar and its dysregulation is leading to all of these difficulties right now in rebalancing our energy levels, our mood, brain fog, homeostasis, and also weight loss. So what I thought about today was, I was going to come up with more of a complicated topic. Really, I was going to say, okay, I'm going to quote this research and this research and this research, compare the three, and show you kind of what mold or model might work best for you. But the problem is, that's not as interesting. What I want to do right now is bring you something that's much simpler, because that's really what we need. We don't need to complicate our lives with more science, more research. You want what works. And what I want to do right now is give you an action plan that if you're looking to burn body fat, especially this time of the year, and you want to lean up, or you want to help others do the same, because I know we have a lot of health coaches, a lot of personal trainers right now listening to the Cabral Concept, is what we need to do is we need to learn about blood sugar regulation. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to use what's called a glucometer. It's just this. I have it right now. It's actually sitting on my desk, and I just poked my finger, which I'll get to in a moment, all in the name of science and all in the name of this podcast to bring you really, what works and what doesn't work. Well, the truth is this. Is that if you want to be healthy, if you want to overcome the adrenal fatigue, if you want to get rid of the brain fog, the fibromyalgia, the inflammation, and lose the weight, burn the body fat, not just lose weight, but burn body fat, especially the body fat around the middle, what we need to do is get that blood sugar down below 95 milligrams per deciliter, pretty much as we can throughout the day. We don't really want it below 70 milligrams a deciliter, but we absolutely do want it somewhere within that range of about 70, 75 to 95 milligrams a deciliter. And now if we do that, what does that mean? Well, it means our blood sugar level is at a nice equilibrium, a nice homeostatic level where we have enough fuel for the brain, for the entire body, everything that needs to be done. But at the same time, we can burn body fat. So we can use fat, we can oxidize our own body fat stores as a fuel source, and that's vitally important. Okay, so let me just tell you right now how I use this in my practice. If you've had difficulty burning body fat before, what you want to do is you want to just get a simple glucometer. You can get them at your local drugstore, or you can purchase them right online as well. And we'll link it up in the show notes absolutely today. Very inexpensive, under $30. And what they do is they come with test strips. And then all you need is a couple of lancets, and usually the starter kit contains 10 lancets. You just give your finger a little poke, just like a diabetic would. And what you want to do first is just test your blood sugar first thing in the morning, right when you wake up. So it doesn't have to be that second, but within the first 10 minutes or so of waking up. And you want to look at it. Is it below 95, and it's just mg/dl, milligrams per deciliter. You don't need to know what that means. You just want it between 75 and 95 milligrams per deciliter. If it's in the 60s, you might actually feel tired. You might actually feel groggy. You might actually feel lethargic and a little cranky right away waking up. And that's because you are a little lower blood sugar at that point. And I've been there. I've also been type 2 diabetic. So when I was at my worst, 17, 18, 19 years old, my fasting glucose was well above the 130s. And I also did a glucose stim test. I did all those, and I was, again, type 2 diabetic. So how is it now that my blood sugar, I just ate lunch 2 hours ago, and that my blood sugar is 89, says right here in my little glucometer, 89 milligrams per deciliter. And that's just 2 hours after eating a full meal. What was my meal? It was a piece of salmon. I had a big thing of rice. It was about 1.5 cups of rice. I had broccoli and I had olive oil. That was my entire lunch. And just previously to lunch, probably 20 minutes before that, on my way to lunch, I actually did have some berries. So there was some fruit a little bit before that. Now, I don't always eat animal protein at lunch or fish. I don't actually eat that much meat. It's usually, if I do, it is some type of fish. And a lot of times it's just a vegan-based lunch. But today, I did have some salmon. And what you saw right there, my blood sugar, was that if I had blood sugar-based issues, if I had what everyone's talking about with why we should be doing keto-based diets and all that, then I would have been somewhere in the 150 plus, even 2 hours after my meal. It would not have come down. But that's not my body type. Now, again, it was at one point, that was my phenotype. It's what I had become, but that's not my natural Vata Pitta body type or ectomorph, mesomorph body type. Now, do I have some Kapha body type in there? Yes, we all do. We all have a part of those specific three. But my body allows me to eat a little bit more carbohydrates. And I've done long keto-based fasts and all that. And they don't specifically work for me. Low carb does work for a lot of specific people. But what I'm trying to teach you here today is that all you need to do is find out where you're at right now. And where I was at before, when I couldn't control my blood sugar, I had to reduce those carbs initially. I did. And I'm going to publish some studies showing you that you can actually have fruit and things like that, which don't affect diabetes and actually help it. And I want to publish that research as well for you. But so what you want to do is first you want to get your baseline. And if you're not waking up with that below 95 milligrams per deciliter, you absolutely want to make sure that you're doing a better job of regulating that blood sugar. And initially, you do use a lower carb nutrition plan, and it works great. Do we get people all the way in ketosis? No. If we do, it's not on purpose. They're dipping into it for certain periods of time. Yeah, that absolutely does happen. It happens on the Dr. Cabral detox all the time. And then people start to learn how to ease out of that low carb nutrition plan. And again, I have a whole free podcast on that. And you can just literally go to steamcabral.com/podcast, learn how to do that. Okay. So now let's move on. You're waking up with your fasting glucose, 75 to 95 milligrams per deciliter. What happens after that? Well, you want to make sure that about 2 hours to 3 hours, you can do both. You can do 90 minutes post-meal, 3 hours post-meal, is that you want, by 3 hours post-meal, your blood sugar, meaning like you poke your finger again, you want to make sure 3 hours post-meal that your blood sugar is all the way back down between 75 or 70 to 95 milligrams per deciliter again. And again, it's just poking your finger. Do you need to do this forever? Absolutely not. But what this will teach you is if you are back down in blood sugar enough to now be tapping back into body fat, because too many people are guessing. That's the honest truth. And some people do fine with frequent meals. Most people don't. Believe me, 10 years ago, I was a subscriber and a prescriber of eating every 2 to 3 hours. But now, unless someone has true adrenal fatigue, they get into that low blood sugar, which again, we test for, they're eating about every 4 hours. Why? We need to make sure, or longer, that their body gets into enough of a lower blood sugar state, again, healthy lower blood sugar, that their body can then begin to oxidize fat as a fuel source. That's really, really important for body transformation, but then also detoxification and homeostasis. You can't always just be putting food into your body all day long and expect yourself to be able to regulate blood sugar, regulate digestion, regulate hormones. It doesn't work that way. You have to give your body rests in certain interval and rhythms. So I'm a big proponent of making sure that you fast from 7 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning or 6 at night to 6 in the morning, at least 12 hours overnight. That works phenomenally well for every human being alive, except the one subtle case of those people who have the lower blood sugar, adrenal-based issues. First, they correct that blood sugar issue, which I had to as well. I was part of that. I had Addison's disease. Once you fix that, then you can go back to the overall healthy. But again, treat yourself for where you're at right now. Okay, so what does all of this mean? It means this, that instead of eating every 2 to 3 hours, you might go to every 3 to 4 hours until you can regulate mood, hormones, all of that. Then you might go from 3 to 4 hours to every 4 hours to 5 hours. So in the long run, you might be eating 3 times per day rather than 6 times per day. And again, everyone's a little different. There's no doubt about that. And you might have to deal with whether you're trying to pack on a lot of muscle. That's different than health, right? Packing on a lot of muscle is more personal based. It's not necessarily all health based because you're doing it for a specific goal. Let's say that you are strength based and you want to have something pre-workout as well as peri-workout as well as post-workout. Again, that's different. So that you're taking into goal consideration rather than overall healthy lifestyle consideration. The two are not mutually inclusive of each other, meaning one doesn't necessarily go with the other. They're more exclusive. And I think that's a really important point to look at. But the bottom line is this. you don't have to guess. You don't have to take anyone's word for it. You can use science and a simple thing like a glucometer to test your fasting glucose when you first wake up, which is, again, not only one of the most important things to know if you're going to be able to burn body fat efficiently or if you've been burning body fat over the course of that night, which is so important. Again, if you're not tapping into body fat while you're sleeping, you're missing such a huge window of body fat reduction. And the other thing is, if you're skipping breakfast and your blood sugar is still high, well, you're doing that, but you really didn't get the benefits of the overnight fast, and you might not even get it by skipping breakfast. What's more important is that you get your cell dynamics working better so that your cells actually better respond to insulin in your blood and then are able to uptake that glucose by using the insulin receptors on the outside of the cells to pull it into the cell to use for the mitochondria, to use for the brain, to use for your whole body. So that's more important than try to hack the system. Remember, we talk about biohacking all the time. Biohacking isn't necessarily a good thing. Biohacking is only a good thing if you're working with the natural systems of your body. If you're trying to override them, believe me, we are not smarter than our body. There is no chance. There is absolutely no chance. So what's happening is, you won't even fool it, but you'll override it in the short term, just like medication and drugs can. But in the long run, you're going to set yourself up for disaster. For example, if 90% of your diet is saturated fat, you are setting yourself up for some serious issues in the long run, even if your genotype, your blood is a 2 allele, meaning like if you test your alleles with genetic testing and you come up with a number 2 allele, even if you're a 2-2, which is unbelievably rare, you still don't really want more than 35% of your diet in the long run to be coming from fats, that's saturated fats and fats together, SATs, I just made that up, combined. So, I'm having a little fun with it right now, but, the joke is really on people who are thinking that they're going to lead a long-term good, healthy lifestyle by just eating saturated animal fat all day long. Trust me, we all know from a deep conceptual level that doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. There is no way that that's primal. There is no way that that's paleo because we never had access to that. Eventually, when we had weapons, yes. Eventually, when we had fire, yes. But you're telling me that we ate all of that from the very beginning? No. Humans were not at the top of the food chain. We were not an apex predator. We would get eaten by other larger animals much easier because we had nothing really to defend ourselves from. We couldn't climb trees. We couldn't do anything. Our job was to stay alive by hunting and gathering. So yes, we would eat things that's smaller than us. We would eat worms and grubs, and maybe we could get rabbits or small rodents or things like that. Yes, but nobody wants to think like that. They don't want to think that we were in crickets and bugs, but we were because that was accessible to us. So anyway, I'm also not making the argument that you can't eat some animal protein and you can't eat some of all different food groups because we really are omnivores and our intestinal tract and our teeth, all of that show that. But to think that our predominant source was animal fat is confused. It really is. Not only does it not match up with the science, the anthropology, but it also doesn't match up with human physiology of like how our bodies were actually meant to function. Because to do that, then you also have to take into consideration the massive amount of bile you would need to produce and lipase to actually break down all of that fat as well. So what I'm saying is, in terms of, I got on a little bit of a rant here, but in terms of cell membrane dynamics, if you eat that much fat too, you are going to most likely clog up the bilipid membrane, which is the fatty membrane around all of our cells where our DNA is kept, our mitochondria is kept, and that is going to be less accessible to oxygen, to nutrients, all of those things. So that's very, very important. That's why you won't see yourself really recover from type 2 diabetes and a lot of these things, like from a long-term perspective, for about 90 days. And that's why we do hemoglobin A1C on your blood work about every 90 days or so, 90 to 120 days. That's when your cells begin to turn over. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to just start eating like a healthy, normal human being. Wake up, have breakfast. Let me just give you my plan. It's just a starting point, okay? And you're waking up, you're doing your greens powder in the morning. We use the daily fruit and vegetable blend. You're squeezing some lemon in there. That's going to get the bile flowing. That's going to get your digestive system woken up. An hour later, you're still in a fasted-based state, okay? An hour later, then you can have your smoothie. If you want to have breakfast, no problem at all. Just choose, obviously, something healthy for you. I tend to go lighter, easier to digest in the morning for everyone that I work with and myself as well, because then you get to keep all your energy. You don't have to give it away to digestion. Okay, so we do a high fiber, high antioxidant smoothie using the daily all-in-one powder, all that good stuff. And then we wait, and that's kind of time release over an hour, so you don't have to worry about the glucose spike or any of these things. And again, you can test your blood sugar, very simple. We wait then 3 to 4 hours later, have a lunch like I did today, somewhere around 11:30, 12 o'clock. 2 hours, well, again, test your blood sugar if you want. 2 hours later, you can do it before you eat. And again, it should be before you eat, right before you eat, 75 to 95 milligrams per deciliter. 2 hours later, ideally, it's back down already. If not, 3 hours later, it should be down 75 to 95 milligrams per deciliter. I'm going to see how many times I can say that in one show. And then mid-afternoon snack is optional. It's optional only if you drop in energy. It's optional only if you get hungry, your stomach starts growling, it gives you those hunger pangs, or if you're not eating maybe for like 7 or 8 hours. That's up to you. If you're trying to burn body fat, no need for a mid-afternoon snack if you had a large enough lunch and you're not hungry. Don't force yourself to eat. Then you can go a nice maybe 6 hour span until dinner. That's okay. You'll be okay. You remember, your body's holding on to lots of excess fuel in terms of body fat. Tap into that. Use it. Do a workout, whatever you want during that time. Go for a walk. Breathe. Relax. That will help you burn body fat as well by decreasing cortisol. So then after that, you're going to have your dinner. At this point, if you're looking to burn body fat, we usually go a lot of veggies at night, healthy protein, good fat, and then after dinner, make sure you ate enough to be satiated, at least 10 to 15 grams of good fiber in there. You can take psyllium fiber if you need to again, like add more fiber, add more bulk, especially if you're constipated. And that will be just enough to drink some water half hour post-meal, an hour after your meal. You can do ginger tea, you can do an herbal tea, brush your teeth right after you finish dinner. That will help you, it will cut your cravings because you won't want to rebrush your teeth after eating like a cheat food or a snack or whatever it might be. So all of these things matter. And again, test your blood sugar before bed. Has it come down 2 hours, 3 hours after dinner? Good. Now you're going to bed with your blood sugar down and you're going to tap right into body fat while you sleep. Remember, we tap into the greatest percentage of body fat when we're most at rest. I know that seems hard to believe, but it's not that we burn the greatest amount of body fat, but we tap in the greatest percentage, because the lower we are in fight or flight, the more relaxed we are, the more we're going to tap into that fat burning fuel as an oxidation fuel source, which means that your blood sugar will be nice and low and level, and then we can really go to work. We can work on detoxification. We can regulate hormones. We can lower cortisol. We can produce melatonin, and we can burn body fat. So hopefully today's show was what I intended, was a mix between the science of regulating blood sugar and how to do that living in the real world. And again, we can get really complicated, but what I gave you is basically a 3 to 4 meal system that, again, you can adapt to your own life, no doubt about that. But then you can also test. You can test to see if you are tapping into body fat. And again, if you have a high blood sugar level above 100, you need to work on that first. Lower that blood sugar level. That is why you might be getting frustrated, losing weight, tapping into the body fat, and dealing with fatigue-based issues. I couldn't regulate my blood sugar for a little while, actually, for a couple of years. That's only because no one had taught me this. So I would go really high after a meal, and then I would just drop. Like I would just plummet. I would go from like 200 milligrams per deciliter down to like 58. And I would be lightheaded. When I stood up, I would get lightheaded. My blood pressure would go low. I felt terrible. I had brain fog. Hormones were dysregulated. But once I learned to better regulate that through enough protein, fiber, healthy fat, just a nice mix of macros per each meal, I was better able to start regulating the blood sugar. Of course, got my hormones in balance, lowered my excess cortisol levels, and everything re-regulated. And then at that time, I was able to not only then re-put on muscle, because I was burning a lot of muscle as fuel as well when I got that low blood sugar, but I was able to burn body fat. So instead of being skinny fat, I could start then packing back on the muscle, and I could start getting my waist leaner and leaner. And that really is what I was looking for. And that's what most people are looking for. You don't need to look like a cover model, but you want to be in good shape. You want to feel comfortable with your body. And hopefully I was able to get that message across to you today. Thank you everyone for tuning in to another Cabral Concept. And as always, please do feel free to share this episode with anyone you feel it could help. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stevencabral.com/courses.